And now it's time to make sure that our clovers are set up correctly using the setup app. Notice that the two that are on the bottom here, these will be my registers. These up here are going to be my minis being used as a forward-facing display. So we're going to go to the first register. I'm going to go home if I'm not already at the main Clover App Market page. Again, making sure that I have logged in with my admin PIN, I'm going to go to the Setup app. Once I'm in the Setup app, I'm going to make sure that I select devices. And then it's going to be important to go into the Setup app and name every one of your devices. And I would do this individually, this specific section, one by one. So as you can see here, this is the device that I'm using now because it says this device. Once we're here, we're going to label this whatever register number it is, and you can either use a number or a letter. I prefer to use letters. So we're going to capitalize A, and then I'm just going to put an R, capital R for register. Notice at the bottom it says I create orders on this device. And then the other button that says I don't create orders on this device. This way, this right here is when you're going to be using your Clover as your forward-facing display, because we don't want you to be billed for the register application when using just as a forward-facing display. Okay. Also, the order prefix, we're going to also want to make sure that we label AR as well. Okay. Actually, we can just put A. That's fine. And then that way, if you have orders, you're able to determine which register it goes to. So it'll be A1, A2 order number. Once you have completed this, so this is, again, this is my register. So on this screen, it's going to say I will create orders on this device. I have my A for my prefix, and my device name will be AR. So it's my first register, or 1R, and then press save. Then I'm going to go to my forward-facing display just so that you can see what you would do with the next device. Under the Setup app, we'll go to Devices. Notice how here, this was my AR, the one that I just did. This is this device. This is going to be my forward-facing display. I'm going to press the letter A, and then I'm going to do a D for my display. And then again, my order prefix is still going to be A because it's tied to the main register 1 or register A. But I also have located here, I don't create orders on this device. And then I'm going to press save. So if I don't create orders on this device, notice if I try to press the register application, I can't because it's highlighted gray. And again, it's just so that this can only be used as a display and not as a full register. So now I'm going to go back down to the register A again and complete the remaining set of features. If you have categories and you're not just using standard items, you can select remain in this category so that you're not having to log into the category every single time. And then I would also automatically group similar items so that when you do print to a kitchen, if that's what you do, all of your items are grouped correctly back to the kitchen. And then you go to the order receipts. This is a very important step, even if you are not printing order receipts. Okay, so if you, let me go back, I'm sorry. Order numbers, I'm sorry. So you're going to go to order numbers, and this is a requirement for every California fair. We're going to do automatic. We're going to change the rollover number to be several more 9s and not just 99. We don't want to reset to 1 at 3 a.m. because they want the constant rollover numbers. And then you're going to press save. So that's the most important piece that you can do under the order receipts, whether you're printing an order receipt to the kitchen or not. Then we're going to go to payments. In payments, you're going to want to make sure that you have selected, I'm going to remove this one, save because that does not pertain to you. You're going to want to make sure that your cash and your credit cards are selected as a payment to be accepted. Again, we're taking payments on this device. On here, this is where you're going to let your client choose whether they're going to enter the payment on the forward-facing display or on this device. I would recommend on the register itself, so that you don't have to explain to the client every single time how to insert their card, and then the cashier can simply just run the card for them. So let me just go back again. So if I go to payment device and I select it, this means I'm going to take the credit card and put it on the main register. Or if I do on connected device, that gives the customer the opportunity to enter their own credit card, but that does require the cashier to explain to the customer every single time how to insert the card. And then we're going to press save. This is the next thing you'll have to do on every single one of your registers. Prompt for pen. I don't recommend prompt for pen just because it slows down your line. So I would select it. I would say don't prompt for pen and press save. You're still going to be able to accept all payment types. One of the features that are now available is enable fast pay with cash and register. Now, if you're using the Register Lite plan, this is not something that's available to you, but if you are using the full register plan, you can select it, and it just allows for you to select cash options more quickly, which I'll show you later. And then we scroll down, and then we go to signature. Or actually, let's go back to offline payments. I would recommend allowing offline payments. You do run a risk of the card not going through once you're back online, but the nice thing with Clover is that it's smart enough to know when you're online, and then the second that you have reception, you're able to, the Clover will just automatically authorize that payment, and then you can move forward. So if you don't want offline payments, you can select this, but just know that if you don't have reception, your cards won't go through and it will slow down your lines. So again, my recommendation is to make sure that you always allow offline payments on demand, and you can change your offline payment limitations down here to whatever you choose. I usually just leave it at the default. And then press save and continue. Then the signature settings. If you're going to have the patron sign on screen, which is what I recommend, you would just select this, but if you wanted them to sign on printed receipt, you would select on printed receipt and press save. The last piece is signature requirements. If you select signature requirements, don't require signature usually to anything less than $25. That means that if you take a transaction that's $5, then you are not required to accept a signature. It'll just print the receipt and move on. So I'm going to go ahead and press save. And then we're going to go to payment receipts. With California, you're going to want to make sure that you just have your automatically print customer receipt after each order selected. This right here, skip receipt screen, it's a great feature to keep lines moving faster, but if the cashier can't remember the change, or if the paper was out of receipt, you would have to get a manager to come in and reprint those receipts for you. So I would suggest just keeping that unchecked so that the amount of change due back to the customer remains on the screen, and that if you ran out of paper, you still have time to print the receipt again. And then the last thing will be your taxes. So whatever your tax rate is, you would go ahead and select this, and then you would press the plus button, name whatever the tax is. We'll say California. Oops, sorry. See, and then I believe you're at 8.5%. I'm guessing. And then you're going to want to select that this is your default tax rate. Now, just know that when you're using taxes, that you're going to have to make sure that you back out the tax amount from your items. If it's possible to keep tax included on your items, by all means, you can do that as well, as long as your fare allows it. And then we go back. If you choose to take tips, you can select the tips button. Ask for tips disabled. Typically most of our concessionaires just leave it off because it doesn't slow down line, but if you want to ask for tip, you can go ahead and select that, and for now I'm not going to. And that completes your setup app. Make sure that before moving forward you complete the same process under the other devices. The only thing that you'll need to do on the other devices, is the devices itself, remember renaming them, and then also going into your payments, scrolling down where it says pin entry, selecting do not prompt for pin, and save. All the other options have saved onto your Clover device.